Ready, Madam Clerk? It's 5 o'clock high time. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the City of Homestead special call meeting of the City Council to order. Today is June 13th, 2023, and it is now 5 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Bailey? Here. Board Member Fletcher?
Here.
Board Member Avila? Board Member Feckler Staggers? Board Member Ross?
Present.
Vice Chairman Guzman? Chairman Lawson?
Here. And this is a special calls first in the agenda package. You're saying board member rather than council member. Yeah, 'cause first in my agenda packet is
Mayor?
a special call.
Well, I'm sorry, Mayor, but the CRA was advertised for 5 o'clock,
Okay,
and I think the special call may have been advertised for immediately
5:15, okay.
5:15, so,
Okay, so whoever stuffed my notebook here.
no, I'm in the same boat you are.
Okay, so to correct the record, we're calling the City of Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting to order. The roll has been called. Madam Director, do we have any deletions or deferrals?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, first item is the approval of the May 9th, 2023 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Board Member Fletcher, seconded by Board Member Bailey. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor? Any opposed? Next item, new business, tab 2. Madam Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On May 17, 2010, the CRA Board approved Resolution CRA 2010-5-4, creating the Residential Facade Repair Grant Program. Staff recommends that the CRA Board approve the attached resolution authorizing the allocation of a residential rehabilitation grant in the amount of up to $15,000 to Wilma Jean Hagan at 632 Southwest 6th Street in Homestead. The grant will cover roof replacement and landscaping. And I will add that this grant, as well as the other grants that are on the agenda, will be, the construction work will be done by Rebuilding Together. So we have now gotten that process in place for them to take care of all of our grants.
Okay.
With that said, any questions?
All
or
right, thank you. Board members, any questions on this item or in general with respect to the next several? Oh, I'm glad you mentioned the Rebuilding Together. I know we had, some delays with procurement issues and so forth. So that was my question on a couple of these that had roof issues. I noticed, was this just for illustrative purposes, or is the roofing company in Florida City the company that will be doing the work?
The roofing company is a subcontractor of Rebuilding Together. So whomever provided the quote in this packet, that's who Rebuilding will use to do the roofing service.
Okay, so I just, curious, do you know whether or not other local roofing contractors were given the opportunity to be part of the program?
I know that Rebuilding did say that they, in all the projects, that they will make a concerted effort to get contractors that are from the city of Homestead. They have their own procurement process and insurance requirements and stuff, so I don't know if that was, a reason why a Homestead group wasn't chosen. We can look into that, but they have affirmed to us that they are looking to make sure that they attract and utilize Homestead contractors.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I know there are at least 2 roofers remaining in Homestead that have been here in business for decades, probably 3 at least.
And one of the other considerations is cost.
Sure.
So, that may have been taken into consideration as well.
Just as we ask when we buy city vehicles, I just, would like to know and be comfortable that every attempt was made to keep that money truly here in those who do business within our, are based within our city limits. I guess the same issue with the other, I guess you call them a contractor, someone from, looks like the Princeton, Naranja area, that it wasn't anyone local doing some of the other work.
I'm
I
not
think the
sure
name
which
was-
grantee that was that had a contractor from the
That was
Princeton area.
an Amos Young.
Look that up. Can you look that up? I'm sorry, say again. And all of these, we can check with Rebuilding, just to
Yeah.
confirm that they did make an effort to do business with a homestead contractor. And again, factor may have been cost, but we will
Right.
confirm. And
And
like
I
I said,
just like, would appreciate knowing
Of
that
course.
as we go forward. All right. Is there any public comment on tab 2? This is the rehabilitation grant for 632 Southwest 6th Street. I know the homeowner is here. If you could just stand up and wave at us on this one. Thank you. Congratulations. Looking forward to it. Very good. All right. Do we have a motion to approve tab 2? Moved by Board Member Bailey, seconded by Board Member Fletcher. Do we need a roll call? We need a roll call, I guess.
Board Member Fletcher?
Yes.
Board Member Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Board Member Roth?
Yes.
Board Member Avila? Yes. Board Member Bailey? Yes. Vice Chairman Guzman?
Yes.
Chairman Lossner?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, next item, Madam Director, tab 3, 809 Turner Circle.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, sorry about that. Tab 3. So staff recommends the CRA Board approve the attached resolution authorizing the allocation of a residential rehabilitation grant in the amount up to $15,000 to Julene L. Thompson at 809 Turner Circle. The grant will cover replacement of a front door and bathtub, exterior paint, and installation of a fence. And Ms. Thompson is here as well.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? And Ms. Thompson, I see you waving at us. Welcome. Congratulations. All right. Any public comment on this item? Okay, so none appearing. I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve tab 3 for 809 Turner Circle. Moved by Board Member Bailey, seconded by Board Member Roth. Let's have a roll call.
Board Member Bailey? Yes. Board Member Roth? Yes. Board Member Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Board Member Avila? Yes. Board Member Fletcher?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Guzman?
Yes.
Chairman Lossner?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. Next item, Madam Director, tab
Thank you,
4,
sir.
right?
Staff recommends the CRA Board approve the attached resolution authorizing the allocation of a residential rehabilitation grant in an amount up to $15,000 to Mr. Kamari Robinson at 546 Northwest 7th Street in Homestead. The grant will cover plumbing repairs and fence repairs.
Very good. Any questions from the board? Mr. Robinson, are you here? There he is. Okay. You waved at us earlier. I thought you were with the other one. All right. Is there any public comment? I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve tab 4. Moved by Board Member Fletcher, seconded by Board Member Bailey. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Roth?
Yes.
Board Member Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Board Member Fletcher?
Yes.
Board Member Avila? Yes. Board Member Bailey? Vice Chairman Guzman?
Yes.
Chairman Lossner?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Good, thank you. All right, and finally, tab 5 for 619 Northwest 2nd Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff recommends that the CRA Board approve the attached resolution authorizing the allocation of a residential rehabilitation grant in an amount up to $15,000 to Jose and Maria Rodriguez at 619 Northwest 2nd Avenue. The grant will cover roof repair replacement. And they are here as well.
Very good. Mr. and Ms. Rodriguez, thank you. All right. Any public comment? All right, do we have a motion to approve tab 5? Moved by Board Member Bailey,
Second.
seconded by Vice Chair. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Bailey? Yes. Board Member Roth? Yes. Board Member Fletcher?
Yes.
Board Member Avila? Yes. Board Member Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Guzman?
Yes.
Chairman Losner?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you. Congratulations. So, just so we know, it's just a matter of getting permits pulled and getting moving at this point. No further impediment other than issuance of permits and weather permitting on roof work.
The only other step is just for them to sign authorizing rebuilding to come on their property and do the repair work, and then they'll start the permitting process.
Very good, thank you, appreciate that. All right, anything further on any other issues?
Yes, Mr. Chair. One announcement on June 24th, that's a Saturday, from 12 noon to 4 p.m. at Miami-Dade College Homestead Campus in celebration of June, which is National Home Ownership Month. We are hosting Pathways to Home Ownership with Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, and it is an opportunity for folk who would love to own a home, and maybe they just need to find a lender or find a home, or find resources like down payment assistance. They can come and take part in this one-stop shop event. Again, it's at Miami-Dade College from 12 to 4 on June 24th.
Very good, thank you.
I had a question.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair.
Councilwoman Avila? Are there any updates with increased funds for those programs?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why we organized this event, because the assistance went from a maximum of like $12,000 to now $28,000. So these funds can piggyback with our CRA down payment assistance and with hopefully our new citywide program that we're looking to do. So it is open to all of Miami-Dade County, but we have found industry-wide that the southern Miami-Dade County area is oftentimes overlooked, and the resources don't reach down here. So having this event right here in our city is very, very important.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Claire, is that new federal funding or state or?
It is surtax funding, and it's, it comes from just overall development throughout Miami-Dade County, and they do have a recapture provision in their financing, but the funds have increased, and regulations and guidelines have decreased or simplified a bit, so making it more available for homeownership.
Very good, thank you.
And one last question to our CRA director. Are you familiar with the program with Section 8 that is converting those vouchers into homeowners? Maybe we could do a similar seminar for those people as well.
I like it. We
Is
definitely look into
it
it.
the voucher, it's a stipend for them to pay their mortgage instead of rents?
That is correct. That the payments could be converted and used towards a new home. So we will definitely get with the Section 8 office and offer up our partnership to do an event like that.
Excellent, thank you.
Just real quick, what kind of limitations would those have in terms of the upper end of that payment?
I'm not sure. I don't know all those details, but I can definitely find out and then report back to you all, and also let you know their interest in having an event here.
Okay, very good, thank you, appreciate that, thank you all.
I'd be interested in knowing what the underwriting procedure would be with that. Okay, thank you.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may, I wanted to add, in addition to the increase in down payment assistance that Board Member Avila mentioned, that is through MDEET, but I just learned of another program called Hometown Heroes that also has starting June 1st, they're increasing their assistance to $32,000, $32,000 or $35,000. And their target is our firefighters, our police, teachers, and basically anyone can actually qualify, but they do target those industries. You're shaking your head. No, it was Mike.
The most recent improvements, which just were released yesterday, I was on that call, is now open to any borrower that works for a Florida-based business. So whereas the initial loan program was targeting heroes within those specific lines of work, now if they are a full-time employee and they work for a Florida brick-and-mortar business, they will be eligible under this program to apply through their lender. So up to 35,000, 5% up to $35,000.
So that basically opens it up to everyone that's an employee for a Florida corporation.
Correct, even like Amazon workers, things like that. So, and that would need to be in a second lien position, first lien position, and then these would be in third, subordinated after that.
Are they all considered loans?
Yes. So MDET is forgivable after 20 years of owning the property. The Hometown Heroes is repayable.
Great, thank you.
And those were some of the nuggets that were in the Live Local Act, that increase in funding from the surtax and the dock stamp funds. Those allocations came through the Live Local Act, as well as the initial description of the Hometown Heroes.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Right. So at this point, are we still awaiting title clearance by the seller on 204 North Chrome?
Yes, sir, we are. I
Any
was told
timeframe?
by the Realtor on last Thursday, I think it was, that any day now, was he told me, any day now they should have that resolved.
Okay, because we borrowed money we're paying interest on, and we don't have anything to show for it.
Yep.
Very good, thank you. Please keep us up to date when that's set.
Absolutely.
Right. Anything further from the board for the CRA? We have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Fletcher, seconded by Board Member Bailey. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, this meeting is adjourned, and we will convene the special call in just a moment. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the City of Homestead Special Call City Council meeting to order. It is now 5:23 p.m. and it is Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Fletcher?
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila? Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers?
Here.
Councilman Roth?
Here.
Vice Mayor Guzman?
Here.
Mayor Losner?
Here. Thank you. All right. Do we have any additions, deletions, or deferrals, Mr. Manager?
No, Mayor.
First item of business is tab 1, a first reading of car number 3938. Mr. Pearl?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 6, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 8, Unsafe Structures, Section 6-531, Physical Criteria for Unsafe Structures, and Section 6-537, Notices, Hearings, and Appeals, creating a presumption that buildings that do not comply with the building recertification requirements are unsafe, and establishing a civil violation, amending Chapter 7, Code Enforcement, Article 3, Code Enforcement Citations, Section 7-40, Schedule of Violations and Civil Penalties, to establish civil penalties for failure to comply with building recertification requirements, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to the City of Homestead Ordinance 2011-0712, the city established the administrative process to address unsafe structures within our municipal boundaries. In order to comply with newly enhanced requirement regarding building recertifications, it is necessary to further enhance the monitoring of building conditions within the city to ensure compliance with life safety requirements of the Florida Building Code and applicable Miami-Dade County and city ordinances. The attached ordinance will allow the city to issue a notice of violation to those who fail to re-ratify, and should the violations continue beyond the time specified for corrections, permit the city to refer the violators to the Special Master and Unsafe Structure Boards. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the City Code to create presumption that buildings failing to comply with building recertification requirements are unsafe, and amending Chapter 7 to establish penalties for failure to comply with building recertification requirements.
Thank you, sir.
This is basically a house cleaning item. In the past, we would request people to do their 40-year certifications, and they were just ignoring us. At least this gives us some teeth to cite them and then start fining them if they don't come into compliance.
And there's other things we can do once they're deemed to be an unsafe structure.
Correct.
And, yeah, it's county ordinance anyway.
I can hardly hear you. I'm
County
sorry.
ordinance anyway.
Yes.
And mandated by the county. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Manager, the way we're going to enforce this a list would be given to code on a weekly basis, monthly basis. What would the procedure be on enforcement?
Once the building department notifies code of the ones who have failed to recertify, code would have that list, and then they would go out and they begin, citing them. If they do not respond to that in itself, then they would get another violation, and of course brought before an unsafe structure board, where penalties would be enforced further from there.
Do you foresee the new workload being a problem to handle with the current personnel you've got?
It's going to be a lot, but we'll manage.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. When does the building department typically notify anybody who is coming up on their 40-year?
They come in periodically. We have a list right now that we would begin enforcing. So it would be immediately that we'll be doing this.
But as far as does the building department come out on June 2nd and say today is your 40-year, today your 40-year recertification is done? I'm just trying to see if maybe there's a way that we could give a little notice to people who are expected to.
Councilwoman Bailey, there are there's a required, oh, sorry.
They get a 2-year notice ahead of time, so they have ample time to go, know that it's coming so they can start working on it.
Great. Now, I know there were a couple businesses in the Southwest that came upon theirs during the pandemic, which obviously didn't make it any easier, but just making sure that everybody is thinking of what they need to do and have things ready. Thank you.
Yeah, no, certainly this is not a surprise. You're out of, yeah, or not there. I think
Yeah.
yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
If a buyer of a building didn't properly do his due diligence and didn't ask about the 40-year certification, and then just happens to acquire the building, he'll just get the regular notification from the city and have to proceed in that fashion.
Good evening. So they receive a notification, the property owner, 2 years in advance, a year in advance, and the year that the recertification is due. That record is like an open permit. If you do any kind of open permit search, it will be revealed. If you do any lien search, it will be revealed. If you call and just request it, we will give that information freely. But it's if you don't look, if it's a cash sale and you don't ask, you won't find out until you get a notice of violation. And they do title searches to make sure that they're noticing the current owner.
Okay, and I've never seen a 40-year certification, so what does it entail?
It's a structural and electrical report done by a licensed architect or a licensed engineer, and it doesn't pertain to minor structures. Those are single-family homes, duplexes, or commercial buildings that are 2,000 square feet or less. So they have to be commercial buildings greater than 2,000 square feet, and as you all are aware, since the Surfside Tower collapse, they have become much more stringent on the requirements. The reports are quite extensive, requiring photographs, and it has become a hot button for the county, for the state. They have both upgraded their legislation with regards to building recertifications. They've taken it from 40 years to 30 years, and they have also limited the building official's ability to provide any extensions of time. They are calling for enforcement across the board. They do regular meetings and request updates on our numbers, how many are delinquent, how many are being queued up for unsafe structures board, how many have been given a notice of violation. So this is all in an effort to comply.
And if a property owner just ignores wanting to recertify or get the certification, what enforcement does the city take? Do we cut their lights? Do we stop water?
Yes, there is an ability to vacate the property if we feel there's imminent danger. We can disconnect the electrical utility. We try not to do that. At last resort, it goes to Unsafe Structures Board, where the special master can actually rule that demolition take place within 60 days, and if the property owner does not demolish the property, then the city can step in, we can demolish the building and lien the property for the cost of the demolition.
Okay. And these certifications, I know we can't give an exact number, but they run upwards of 10, 15,000?
Well, here's the problem. Since it's gone from 40 years to 30 years, right now we're in what they call a transition period. So I have 10 years of building stock from 1984 year built to 1994 that have to be recertified either this year or next year. That's hundreds. On the delinquent list, I have 68. The current year, I have 86. Next year is the big year. And everything has to be caught up by December 31st of 2024.
So, Mr. Manager, maybe we ought to start a campaign on informing the city commercial owners that this is coming down the pipe.
We could definitely do that, Vice Mayor. That wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and I think, yes, as to your question to cost, it largely depends upon what you have to do to become compliant. From personal experience with a commercial building out in the county takes that opportunity to make you bring all the exterior lighting standards up to the current code. And that can be very, very expensive. Guardrails next to the drainage ditches, those kinds of things. So, while depending on who you hire to have the basic architectural review done, engineering review, the huge expense is fact sensitive as to the particular building. Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to the information campaign, if it's possible for us to try to identify certain lenders that are financing commercial property owners in their efforts to become compliant. I know that those exist. I know that they exist for certain homeowner association type of entities, because this is not just for commercial, it's residential buildings that have to come compliant too. So, yeah, like Surfside was a residential property.
Well, it's multifamily, not single family, right?
Right,
Yeah.
multifamily, that's over the 2000s. So, but I am aware, I'm familiar, I'm not personally experienced in that field, but I believe that there are resources and lenders that are funding these types of repairs, depending, of course, on the individual property and their values. So when we do the campaign, if we can try to identify some resources to connect them to, that'd be great.
Will do,
This
Councilwoman.
could be extremely crippling for certain business owners, and so trying to be a liaison and not just, helping to enforce, but also helping to resolve these issues, I think would be a better angle. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilwoman Bailey.
And to add to that as well, to make sure that it is a licensed contractor, because that was the biggest issue, is somebody did the plans and then somebody said those plans aren't valid, and it went back and forth for almost 2 years. So a list of a good way for people to find out if those contractors are licensed, and definitely include that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
So based off what you said earlier, they have to bring their building to the current building code, or is there anything
Not
grandfathered
entirely,
in?
Not
No.
entirely.
No, sir. They do have to have an electrical inspection. They inspect the electrical panel, the electrical wiring. They look for exposed wiring, any unsafe conditions. Cracking, settling in a building for the structural portion, deterioration of concrete, spalling. These are not to bring it up to the current building code. This is just to make sure there are no unsafe conditions.
Like a GFI in a bathroom.
Got it.
But like I say, in my personal experience, even though there seemed to be plenty of lighting out in the county, they're like, no, you get to add $20,000 of new light fixtures.
That is one of the most common.
That is the most common issue and certainly very expensive.
Okay.
Anything further, council? Oh, but and look, let's face it, there are some buildings that owners just will ignore us, and this gives us the opportunity to move forward on perhaps removing buildings that should be removed.
That is correct, Mayor.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve this item on first reading? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Yes. Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Vice Mayor Guzman?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next, we have a first reading on tab 2, car number 3939. Mr. Pearl?
Mr. Mayor, this is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 30 zoning, Article 2 Administration, Division 2 Procedures for Zoning Amendments, Special Exception Permits, Plan Unit Development Submittals, and Variances, etc., to provide regulations establishing administrative site plan requirements and review procedures for multifamily and mixed-use residential developments authorized pursuant to Chapter 2317, Laws of Florida, the Live Local Act, and further amending Article 4, Supplemental Regulations, to provide regulations establishing development standards related to multifamily and mixed-use residential developments authorized pursuant to Chapter 2023-17, Laws of Florida, the Live Local Act, providing for inclusion in the code, conflict, severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is this you, Ms. Lopez, or Mr. White?
So as a follow-up to last month's CAL meeting where I presented to you all the Senate Bill 102, we discussed it, we talked about it, and talked about the broad zoning preemption in the bill as it relates to certain aspects of our ability in regulating developments under the Live Local Act. One of the things that I indicated to you all was that in anticipation of the ordinance becoming effective on July 1, at the very minimum, we needed to do two things. One was to provide for a placeholder with respect to the administrative review procedures for projects under a Live Local, as well as provide for development regulations in the commercial and industrial zoning districts. Because right now, under commercial and industrial, there is no residential assigned to those zoning districts. And with this bill, it allows for mixed use, multifamily and mixed use residential as of right in commercial and industrial. So we needed to provide for development parameters that would control if and when someone came in to take advantage of the legislative authorization, what would be the governing land development regulations associated with those developments in both industrial and commercial zoning categories. And so this ordinance does that. It provides for general district regulations related to multifamily and mixed-use residential projects for commercial and industrial zoning categories. And it basically goes through, as a starting point for discussion, lays out basically the minimum lot coverage, setbacks, unit size, some of the amenities associated with these types of developments, storage, landscaping, sidewalk, signage, rooftop screening, and then there's a catch-all which says that any development taking advantage of the statutory authorization has to comply with the Miami-Dade County Urban Design Manual, which we have adopted in Chapter 32, as well as the mixed-use and non-residential development standards that you all adopted in 2019 prior to COVID. So those would kick in and deal with various architectural elements, design standards, those types of things related to these types of structures in industrial and commercial zoning categories.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. In regards to the way the legislation is written, in the mixed use category, does that allow, the way it's written, without us putting in these parameters, would it allow a developer to bypass the commercial component on a mixed use parcel? Or do they still have to provide a commercial component? Like, let's say we have a mixed-use parcel, and I'm a developer that wants to take advantage of, you know, that Live Local Act. Does that mean they could bypass the commercial component?
Oh. The Live Local, are you talking about development separate outside of the statute or development in the statute?
In the statute.
Okay, so it only kicks in for purposes that it only kicks in certain aspects, right? So you can either do multifamily, right, with no mixed use component, and it's all residential, but a certain percentage of that, 40% of the residential units have to be allocated to affordable as defined in Florida law. And then there's the mixed use component. If you decide to do mixed use, right, which is residential plus, you would still have to meet the minimum 40% requirement for affordable rental, right? As well as there's a 65%, which stipulates that 65% of the mixed use development has to be allocated to residential. So those are the minimum requirements for the mix.
No, the question I'm asking is, there are three categories that fall in line with the Live Local, which is commercial, industrial, and mixed use. If we have in the city of Homestead a mixed use parcel zone designated for mixed use, and a person comes in and says, I want to follow the guidelines of Live Local, but I don't want to put in a commercial component, is that allowed? Is what I'm, because we obviously have a future land use map, and we've always wanted to have mixed use. Do they get to bypass that now if they wanted to?
Well, they only get to bypass it in the sense that they could build residential, but they would still have to comply with all the other land development regulations for that mixed-use category. It's not a free pass.
Okay.
Those mixed-use development standards would apply if you were coming into a mixed-use category.
Not the same with industrial or commercial.
Correct. Because we have no residential right now. We have nothing in residential, I'm sorry, nothing in commercial or industrial that contemplates residential. Either residential by itself or a mixed-use residential. So in order to anticipate what might be coming, right, if someone comes in, there's no regulations on the books that stipulate how, what's the minimum, any of those things. So that's why we're proposing, at a minimum, that you adopt some regulations in the commercial industrial to provide the box, the parameters of the development regulations that apply should someone come in and want to take advantage.
I think your question is, and it's a conversation we had earlier, if a proposed developer otherwise complies with the state statute as to mix, and they identify what we currently have designated as a mixed-use parcel, they are not required to incorporate the mixed-use component. It can be solely residential. Isn't that your question?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. Unfortunately, the answer is yes. Aside from this, and this cannot and does not change that, but that's an issue that James and I talked about earlier.
So whatever we're going to discuss and implement today does not supersede that Live Local Act on that specific question? Does not?
Correct.
Cannot.
Okay. Now I'm clear. Thank you.
Okay. Any further, council? Initial questions at this point? A couple of questions that I had with our attorneys today, and this may bleed over into development services. And let's set it at, we all know I'm the worst case scenario guy. Somebody comes and buys a whole block of property in our downtown and brings in the bulldozers for the purpose of doing a project under the Live Local Act. And let's forget for a moment, let's assume for my hypothetical, they're going to do mixed use, or they're going to do commercial on the ground floor. I was kind of focused on, and I think what we've all hit on in other conversations about enhancing the public area between the curbing and the face of the business that have outdoor dining and entertainment. So my question is, what would be, if that were the case, what would be a better setback than what we have on the books now that we're importing. I mean, I don't know if like in the downtown, and this would be across the board, you know, but in order to reasonably accommodate that amenity of outdoor dining and entertainment, you know, we've got a certain amount of sidewalk, but how much more do we need to exact in setback from the property owner to create that space in exchange for building that? Is it another 10, 12, 14, 20 feet? I think from what I understand, we have the leeway to impose that. So whether or not it's built out on Maury or on Chrome or on Washington, we are creating the ability to have that wider public space. Well, that's a whole other issue, but
So-
if you don't have the open space to do it, it doesn't matter what the building, yeah. Well, and we'll get to that. Yes, Mr.
So
White?
I was just going to add to what you said, Mayor, and that is the general district regulations are premised off of one of the existing mixed-use categories that we already have, which is a business mixed use. And in talking with staff, it seemed to be the most applicable between the mixed-use category and applicability to various commercial zoning districts and industrial zoning districts to utilize some of those standards. What's also for consideration is you have a whole set of regulations that deal with multifamily, right? So if you're dealing with a multifamily, you have R3 zoning district regulations. And so in the R3 zoning district regulations, there is a building site area, and the minimum building site area for one lot or parcel of land is 13,000 square feet for each multifamily structure, and parcels of land or lots shall have an average width of at least 100 feet. Goes on to say front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, front yard setbacks shall be 25 feet front yard required, but in no case shall the front yard be less than 15. Side yard shall be 20 feet in width, but the width of either shall not be less than 5 feet. So those are other parameters that you could utilize as well. What's provided here is a maximum lot coverage, but maybe you want to also think about a minimum lot coverage and pull from the R3. The other thing that is listed here, it talks about patios, terraces, and balconies, which is some aspect of the design features. But in the R3, there's a number of things that they have different parameters that deal with balconies and patios, as well as provides for recreational amenities associated with multifamily development. So you maybe want to consider pulling some of those into these regulations as well, since this is really sort of a hybrid.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I would want to see, and you know, as we talked about earlier, that if you're standing on the street looking at two buildings, you shouldn't be able to tell the difference whether or not it's in an affordable or a market rate building. And folks who utilize the affordable need to have those, the builders who are coming here need to provide those amenities. So I'd like to see those R3 requirements that we have imported into this ordinance, as well as, you know, some advice, and maybe, you know, a second reading, talk about what a really meaningful, much larger setback, reasonable setback would be, so that as these projects are built, we do have those opportunities for the outdoor event space.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. White?
Just to add to the conversation. So I had mentioned earlier that as part of the district regulations that we provided here, there was the catch-all that talked about incorporating the adopted Miami-Dade County Urban Design Manual, which we have adopted pursuant to Chapter 32, but there also that the mixed use and non-residential development standards that you all previously adopted would be included and any development would be subject to those. And so in those regulations, it talks about sidewalks at building entries shall be a minimum width of 11 feet where located adjacent to head-in parking to allow for car bumper overhang, and shall be a minimum width of 9 feet where located adjacent to a landscaping buffer or drive aisle. So, not to complicate matters any, but there are setback requirements in those as well. I mean, we could pull
But
those out.
those don't necessarily seem to be sufficient if we're talking about a Chrome Avenue type redevelopment. And I know we don't want to start naming streets and setbacks. It's better just to have the overall. So, and I know we're not going to settle this question necessarily tonight, but come back with some advice for us on second reading as to what that happy median would be, and perhaps also consider, and it comes no surprise, removing that lower end 700 square foot unit size. Now, to jump ahead of you, if someone were to come in and develop under our current downtown and other standards, they may be able to avail themselves of some of those smaller unit sizes. But this would be the trade-off, that if someone's going to come in and avail themselves of state statute and have the 40% affordable, I view this as an opportunity to avoid having, a larger number of smaller in units that we would remove at the very. I think what we've got now is what, 700 square foot studio, 850 foot, up to one or two bedroom, or just one bedroom, and 150 for any additional bedroom. And it might be beneficial in this context to remove the studio. I mean, you're not removing it from the entire, well, yeah, you're not, yeah, well, yeah, because. Councilman Roth first. I think he wanted to jump. Okay, go ahead, Vice Mayor. Yeah.
If we're gonna look for examples of a good size sidewalk, I know that one in Midtown has a really nice size sidewalk that we could consider if we could get some examples of different areas. I would say Miracle Mile, Midtown, and we can identify if we get a few good angles and we can see. And then I'd go out there and measure just so we have an idea of what that is. And then
I've paced off Miracle Mile. I know what that is.
All right. So you wanted to develop minimum and maximums.
Well, I just want to develop that if you're going to build under the Live Local Act, wherever it may be, this shall be your setback.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
Ready, Councilman? You're still researching and looking.
Go ahead, Councilman.
No, you got it.
I was just gonna, because this isn't fully fleshed out, right? Part of this was discussion, but I wanted to ask you all, I'm assuming, right, but I need you all to tell me that construction of either a multifamily development or a mixed-use residential development, it shall be vertical in nature. And if you're doing a mixed-use development, that at the very minimum, you want to make sure that there's retail, commercial on the ground floor and residential above. Are you all okay with that?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly, but I think we need
Yeah.
to
Oh.
articulate it, put it in, so that there's not a question later.
Absolutely. And do we need to also add that a commercial use may exist on the rooftop, or is that implicit in a mixed-use project? It's not requiring them, but there's no question that it would be allowed.
Yeah. It would be, I mean,
Okay.
I don't
But
think we
that's
need to
kind of
add it. Yeah,
implicit in,
right.
in mixed use. But certainly the mandate that you must have mixed use at street level, on the ground floor.
Let me make this example regarding that comment. Let's say, for example, the industrial property that's where we have the towing over there behind Showbiz. And that goes all the way out, you know, 2 blocks. So on that particular parcel, if somebody wanted to come and afford themselves of the live local, I don't know if commercial on the bottom of that would necessarily be the right thing to do, because it's not on the main corridor. So if we're going to force everyone to do it, it's not going to work in some places.
But I don't think, Mr. White, that's not what we're saying, though. We're saying that if it's mixed use, it's ground level,
Okay.
under that act. Now, and let's not get tangled up in non-live local projects. This is specifically addressing live local projects. No,
Only for commercial and industrial,
yeah,
because the mixed-use categories have their own set of
Right.
regulations that would be applicable.
Okay.
we can't mandate.
All right. So over there where it's all industrial, it could be 100% residential, top to bottom.
Correct.
And there's no way to require a commercial component if they're using the Live Local Act to develop in a commercial zone property. There's no way to say you must
No,
include.
because the statute's clear. It says multifamily or mixed-use residential shall be allowed in areas zoned commercial, industrial, or mixed use. That's some of the broad preemption of your home rule authority that was taken away by the legislature in the act.
Are we allowed to add certain environmental, encouraging items like adding solar panels to the property, or a certain amount of electric charging ready type parking spaces on the rooftop, or the garden boxes? Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I think you have to be really careful. I think you could probably have something that encourages the use of LEED or green environmental aspects. But I think when it comes to construction mandates, I think that we have to be very careful, because we're dealing with affordable housing, and we can't set one set of standards for affordable housing pursuant to this different from how we treat affordable housing elsewhere in the city, because that raises a whole host of issues with respect to treating affordable housing differently in areas of the city.
Understandable. And I think that if there's a way to help reduce electrical costs and to help encourage farm-to-table life living and to encourage, more affordable means of transportation outside of gas and vehicles, that we're trying to also add to the affordability lifestyle by creating those types of, ordinances. But I see your point. Thank you.
So to recap, you're going to come back with some setback.
So on second reading, which is next week for LPA and for council, I will work with staff. We will add provisions related to the recreational amenities for your consideration.
The R3 amenity, yeah.
Pull some of that from R3. Have language in here that talks about for either a multifamily or mixed-use residential project, that the development shall be vertical, constructed vertically, and for mixed-use residential development, the ground floor shall be commercial.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
In regards to the parking, I think the legislation says that we should encourage reduced parking standards, but it doesn't specify. Are we making any adjustments to our parking requirements in our code?
You know, we've just utilized the parking standards that are, 'cause you have to have some standard, right? And then you can always consider a reduction in that if and when a project comes in.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So that, as well as, I can also, for your review, I can put the minimum, minimum lot width and the minimum, lot area from R2 for consideration in here. So you have a minimum and a maximum to sort of look at. And we can also flesh out some of the setbacks for you all to consider.
And were we going to perhaps consider the removal of the 700 square foot studio, that every unit would have at least one bedroom at 850 square feet?
Yeah.
Mr. Roth?
Thank you. Yeah, that was going to be the thing that I was going to bring up. I wanted to look up what Lake Shore's one bedrooms were, square footage wise, and they're 685 square feet for a one bedroom, which is a real one bedroom, not a studio or anything like that. So is it possible for us to increase the square footage requirements for the number of bedrooms? Or are we operating under different housing standards?
You can, I mean, we in the code, we currently have the minimum unit size requirements, right? However, because residential is not commercial or industrial, those are not listed here, right? They don't apply. We do have a business mixed-use zoning district, which is what I've provided for in the code, which is starting at the 750 for the studio. But you can certainly modify this to say whatever you want, right? You can start the minimum unit sizes at 1,000, at 1,200, and then add for every bedroom 1,200 feet, you know, and also cap the percentage of those units, what the makeup could be. I mean, you have sort of
That's built in
carte
here
blanche
already.
to do whatever you want here.
Right, because if we're worried about the density in some of these areas, that helps control how many units per acre you can put on a piece of property based on the square footage of each of the units as well. So I would think. So that's just another thing to throw into the mix to help control this. What concern?
In looking at your minimum unit size requirements, notwithstanding this business mixed use, apartment and condos have a requirement that an apartment or condo with 2 or fewer bedrooms shall contain a minimum of 1,000 square feet under air and an additional 150 square feet for each additional bedroom. That same standard applies to mixed use. Any type of residential unit with 2 or fewer bedrooms located within a mixed-use development shall contain a minimum of 1,000 square feet with an additional 150 square feet allocated for each additional bedroom. And then you have the business mixed use, which contemplates a smaller, specifically carves out a smaller
Right.
unit size.
Which is why you imported those standards
Right.
into this ordinance for discussion. I get that. But, you know,
Well,
what
can-
you would have as freestanding projects would be a different product than perhaps you would have in a downtown. Balanced by my concerns and Mr. Ross' concerns about overall
the
availability.
density, right? So, and the other thing that concerns me too is the more we chew up and allow to disappear commercial and industrial, it takes away the opportunities to create jobs. So,
And that's out of our hands.
right, so, but it doesn't make sense that somebody could come through here and purchase every piece of commercial property in the city and build density on each
Build
of those.
affordable projects on every piece of
Right.
commercial property.
Where, but that was gonna be my next question. Are we allowed to protect some percentage of our industrial and commercial property from this? Or we have to just, if they come and they say they want to build, we have to let them do that?
Yeah, provided they meet the criteria in the statute, right? As well as the criteria that you all have in your land development regulations.
We protect it by enacting land use regulations.
So 100% of our commercial and industrial land that's available for development is open for.
The extreme example,
Yeah, well, we have to
Right.
kind of plan for the extreme
extreme
too.
example, if someone met all the qualifications and they wanted to do a multifamily residential development or a mixed-use residential development, they would be allowed to come in and build in commercial and industrial. There is in the statute, there is a provision that specifies if you're a municipality with less than 20% of commercial, then development has to be mixed use, but you're not in that you're above that threshold.
And this also would allow a developer to purchase an existing commercial property being used for commercial and buy it and redevelop it for multifamily under this provision, right? It's not about vacant property that's
Yeah,
being
it
purchased for
doesn't matter.
development.
It's the zoning.
And
Yeah,
does that include the Park of Commerce too?
Well, the Park of Commerce is
You got the air issues.
a DRI, which is a completely different animal and beast, and is zoned. It's like a super PUD with a master plan. So I would argue that the Park of Commerce, that is controlled by a declaration of restrictive covenants on top of the DRI master plan, is not something that can be or is subject to this live local.
And I understand what you're saying. There's part of the AQs and all that, but there is some land that's outside of that those restrictions too. So it's just whatever.
Yeah, worst case scenario, someone could buy up our entire downtown
Yeah.
or all of the remaining industrial property, and if they meet all the other criteria,
And we
There
can't
they go.
we can't
Yeah.
put height restrictions in this either?
not height
7 feet.
restrictions, but in effect, what we adopt will govern the appeal of coming here and doing that.
All right.
That's my finger.
Remember the density, they get a free, the density is the highest permitted density that's allowed citywide. The height is the highest
mile.
permitted height for residential within a 1 mile area of the proposed development.
No matter what we did as far as restricting or taking away square footage for bedrooms and things like that, they can just go higher to a point. So even if we did eliminate a 750 square foot efficiency, it wouldn't change their ability to put, if the number was 31 units per acre on an acre, it wouldn't change that in any way. They can reconfigure the building to put that many doors in place. Right? I mean,
There's so many variables to that.
Yeah, I just-
But
we're chasing
the more
we're
you
chasing something that
require
we can't
with-
even fix.
with the more that you require, or the less, the more requirements that you have in place with respect to the type of development, the footprint, and how much, and the amenities are going to dictate the bulk and the amount of square footage and density that you're going to be able to build on a specific site.
And then the Southwest Master Plan, does that come in any play? Because a lot of the properties that are commercial and industrial are
Preempted.
underneath that plan too. So
So anybody coming in the sub areas for that would have to comply with those existing regulations that are already in place. It's horrible, I know. We talked about this it's horrible legislation, and it basically takes away a significant amount of your home rule authority. I mean, it's
James?
broad-based statutory preemption.
And the effort here is to, I don't know how else to say it, limit the appeal.
Well, James, and this is not to limit the appeal, but to further add to the healthier lifestyle amongst affordable living, are we able to add a requirement for recreation rooms or? Yes, well, I would like.
So
That's in the R3, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do for next is I'm going to take some of the recreational requirements that are in R3 that stipulate that you have to have a pool, a recreational room. I'm going to pull those over into this for your review, and then you all can ultimately decide if you want to keep it or not, or reduce it, or.
Okay, and I'm in favor of eliminating the studio style type of unit. I'm fine with the 700 square foot per unit for a one bedroom. I think that's a decent size, and
But
if
that
it's,
foments higher density.
say that again.
The smaller unit size foments higher density.
But they're still stuck with the maximum unit per acre anyway.
There's going to
Sorry,
come a
what
point.
was that?
There's going to come a point when you're not going to do it.
I've got a question. Mr. White, is the city's highest density is 31 units an acre?
Right now,
Currently,
And the height within 1 mile, would it be the garage,
it depends on where the project would be located.
but that's our highest building right now, the garage, right? Or do we have some, okay. So then
I think that's the max we allow, well, not the max, but under the zoning code.
Under the zoning, sorry, my hearing, not so good. Under the zoning code, that specific sub-area in the southwest, the multimodal transportation overlay district, has the highest built environment. The other categories are capped at 6 stories or 70 feet.
But it's important to remember, the rule about height is the maximum height allowed for residential. The multimodal is not residential.
Okay, so our city has maximum height of 6 stories, 65 feet?
6 stories, 70 feet in, let me double check the code for the
Right,
business
the
mixed
comp
use, but I
plan is
believe
higher,
so.
but the zoning code is more restrictive. And so the zoning code for if it's a mixed-use category or residential, that would be the controlling height.
So over there on the east side of town, that's the maximum height that's allowed. On the east side of town, let's say on Campbell, over by Outback. Just a general area.
I don't know what it's zoned off the top of my head, so either the zoning regulations that are in place, or if there's something else in a mile that's higher, then the higher is going to apply.
So
but
the business
for
mixed
this side of town, we know that by our code, the benchmark height is 6 stories downtown. So you'd measure a mile out from that. But again, back to this worst case scenario which is not addressed in the statute. So if I'm the developer, I'm going to come in and say, and argue with us, that the RTZ on the county-owned property in the city limits allows 25 stories. And that's what I'm going to go to bat for if I'm the developer. So there is also that area of uncertainty that 1 mile of residential height from the county-owned RTZ property that does not fall within our control at all.
But wouldn't that also, I mean, they're reaching across jurisdictions when they come with that kind of zoning. Wouldn't it have to be the city regulated zoning, not what the county is allowed to do?
It's not
based
the
on
way the statute is written.
That's not the way that this
No.
is written.
It's not the way the state statute
Right,
is
okay.
written.
So it doesn't matter who can
No,
put what up in our city.
There's no conclusion, and I'm like hesitant to go down this road. No, I am, because the statute is not, it could have been drafted with more specificity. I think that our argument, if somebody were to come with that application, would be that we would apply the city's zoning,
Yeah, because
not a specific carve-out preemption for a single
Or not a
county-owned
not
property.
a non-conforming structure.
Yeah.
because worst case scenario, like you said, is 250 units per acre. Under the-
25 stories.
And 25 stories. So, I mean, that's just,
That eats up the Southwest. Commercial and industrial in the Southwest.
it's just, yeah, it's a mess. Okay.
What's on the table?
Well, we know we've asked him to import some setback issues, the R3 amenities that are required. What else have we touched on?
The mixed use aspect.
The ground level mixed use, and we got hung up on unit size. And for me, it's very simple. If we want to see affordable housing at somewhere between 6 and 25 stories, supplant our downtown and Washington Avenue, we do nothing, or we adjust these unit sizes. If we don't, we adjust these unit sizes. Because if it's 6 stories, you can only put so many units of 850 square feet in that box with a given setback. The smaller the unit, the higher the density.
And what was the requirement for parking? Somebody mentioned parking earlier. We can't expand or make
Well,
the parking.
No. I mean, you can apply parking standards. The parking standards that are presented are the same parking standards that are articulated and come from your business mixed use category. So the parking standards are from the business mixed use, except that, well, which basically refer back to your general parking standards, and except that parking requirements for mixed-use residential buildings shall be 1 space per residential unit and 1 space for every 400 square feet of non-residential use.
So if they have a 3-bedroom unit and they have 3 teenage kids that are driving in the unit, they get 1 parking space. Because you said 1 parking space per residential unit.
If it's mixed use,
If
if
they come in and they don't build any commercial aspect to it, and they have residential,
we'll look.
because as it is now with the townhouses situation in some of those communities out east, parking is a nightmare. And it's that maybe that's something we can put into this as another level of, hey, maybe we don't do this here.
Here's the R3.
James, let's say we require 3 parking spaces and 900 square feet per unit. They would still have the option to request variances?
Well, the statute's not clear, but what the statute does say is that, and I'll give you the exact language. The statute says, a municipality must consider reducing parking requirements for a proposed development authorized under Live Local if the development is located within 1 mile of a major transit stop as defined in the Land Development Code, and the major transit stop is accessible from the development.
Was it may or should?
It says may
Must consider, it says shall
Must consider.
Must
Okay.
consider, doesn't say approve, doesn't
Right.
say allow, it says consider. Case by case basis.
So we're waiting for Michelle to give us an answer on that.
On the parking, the code requires that R2, RTH, R3, RCH, et cetera, have 2 parking spaces per unit.
Regardless of square footage, regardless of number of bedrooms.
So in R3 parking through multiple apartment, it said the parking is 2 off-street parking spaces shall be provided for each unit. Such parking spaces may be provided by either an attached garage or a commonly owned and maintained covered off-street parking structure. Parking structure shall be constructed in the same manner and utilize similar architectural design elements and materials as the dwelling unit, in this case, the multifamily structure, which is intended to serve. Talks about shall comply with SEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, which we require all developments in the city to comply with that for parking standards. And no parking space shall be more than 50 feet, in 50 feet by the most direct pedestrian route from the dwelling unit that it's intended to serve.
From the what?
From the dwelling unit is intended to serve. So in this case, R3 allows for, doesn't mandate vertical, right? So if you're applying this to vertical, it would be from the entrance of the multi-story, multifamily building or mixed-use structure.
So it has to be within 50 feet of the door, basically what you're saying there, right?
That's what this requires. I'm just pointing the
Right,
different
I get it.
parking standards.
And then, for just the code, the way it's written today in the city, are there any requirements for guest parking spaces? None. Okay. So, I guess my question is, can we incorporate the parking in there, even though it says you must consider reducing it?
Separate and apart from that, right? Because that's only going to be applicable if you're located near a transit stop, right? If you want to require
Within a mile, though,
a
right?
certain number of, right, you want there to be, if you want there to be a set number of parking spaces allocated to visitor parking, we can put that in here.
That's a
And
consideration.
if and when this section is raised, we'll deal with it, but until then, whatever we put in here will be applicable.
Okay, so will we need to amend the R3, or is that gonna be a whole different parking code
I
that
can
comes with
pull
this?
the R3 into this for parking if you'd like.
But R3 doesn't talk about a guest spot, correct? That's what counts.
We can, there's nowhere it talks about a guest spot.
Nowhere, but I did want to add on the commercial section of the parking code, we do require 1 per 300 square feet. So we should incorporate that as well.
I didn't catch that.
I'm sorry, one parking space per every 300 square feet of commercial space. So we should incorporate that for the mixed-use buildings in addition to the residential parking.
Yeah, this is 400.
So,
Which I'm okay with that. The 350 is okay. What sometimes I get concerned with is the actual width of the spaces.
Right.
So, and I think the width is required at this point. The minimum is
9 by 19.
Right?
9 by 18. So
9 by 19 within the city code. The county code is 8 by 18.
length is not what concerns me.
It's the width.
It's
The
the
width.
width that concerns me. So I don't know. I know we're nitpicking at this point, but the more we put into it, I think the better we come out at the end. So maybe to consider, maybe instead of it being 9 feet, maybe make it 9.5 feet or 10 feet, whatever it is. we
Whatever,
come
go
up
back
with.
to the 10 that it used to be.
But I do like the fact that we're talking about the visitor parking spaces too, because once we add that is citywide, I would think, and anybody that comes to the city now would have to consider visitor parking space, especially in townhome communities. So, and we know what kind of disaster we have in parking in some of these communities, that they have no visitor parking at all.
We can amend the general parking regulations at another time. Right now, we're just talking about the regulations applicable if you take advantage of the statute in commercial and industrial. So
Yeah.
I can pull the parking requirement, which is 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, and apply it here. In addition, require that for mixed-use residential developments, there be an additional 400 square feet for every, or one space for every 400 square feet of non-residential, or we can make it 300 if you want.
I think Michelle said 350 was the standard now.
300.
300, so then that's,
Let's
I'm
be
fine with that.
consistent.
Yeah, I'm fine with that one.
Okay?
I have a question on.
And can we add the visitor parking into that too?
Yes, we can come up with some ratio.
Okay.
I don't know what that magic number
I
is.
mean, if it's one parking space for 4 units, whatever the ratio is, it's fine with me.
There also be like a cross access between the commercial parking and the residential parking, so that might help.
Well, it depends on
Like
each development too, so.
Oh, never mind.
Not gonna matter.
Does the R3 require washer and dryer in each unit?
I don't believe so.
I think that under the current affordability, though, that's something that with the lending and the tax credit regulation, I mean, we look at what's now coming in at Homestead Gardens, that every unit has its own washer and dryer.
But we don't have it part of our requirements. Although it's the trend, it's not a requirement.
But it could be in order to obtain financing for an affordable project.
Any objection to making it a requirement?
None here.
Impact windows,
That we can't do, I don't think.
Yeah, that's going to be controlled by the Florida Building Code.
Generally, high-rise buildings will have impact.
I'd like to see each unit have their own washer and dryer.
Which again, I think plays into, and again, I'm going to continue to go to bat for a minimum unit size of 850 square feet, going up 150 feet for every bedroom thereafter, which would provide plenty of space for a washer and dryer that's not just shoved into a miniature set that's not just shoved into a closet.
Because we just don't know what the makeup's going to be, right? Multifamily, at a minimum, we know 40% of the units have to be affordable, but it could be 100%, or it could be a combination of mixed use and affordable.
So can
Right, 40 is the threshold. It could be 100%. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Pearl, the language regarding the 250 units in the RTZ, we're never going to get a final definite answer, because I think you said, I don't really want to go down that road.
The statute's not going to speak to it. The language in the RTZ ordinance, what it does is create a specific carve-out from local regulations for county-owned property along the lines, and there were just, it was like a subparagraph of a subparagraph of a subparagraph that captured
And specifically called out that parcel.
basically a single lot along the lines, although there were others in other jurisdictions that had similar, that were under similar preemptions. It is not our zoning regulation that allows it. What the county is doing is trying to preempt our zoning for certain specific parcels along the RTZ, or certain county-owned parcels along the RTZ, of which we have one.
So if we're going to try to get some definite answers, I guess we'll never know until that situation presents itself. If an applicant is going to try to utilize, if the county ever did 25 stories there, and an applicant wants to come and utilize that as the height restriction, we wouldn't know until that presented itself.
No, we'd have no way of knowing if someone's going to come, but as James mentioned earlier, I think we would treat that as non-conforming, and we would say that is not the standard by which all other things should be measured.
Because the reason I ask is, going back to your question, Mayor, I mean, I think downtowns need to have compact, small, so it can create walkable, bikeable, areas specifically for downtown. Now, if we look at 34 municipalities in Dade County, and a lot of the great downtowns have smaller, which I haven't done the research, but I don't know if those units there have 700 feet, 800 square feet, 900, I don't know what they are, but it'd be nice to know that some of these places that are doing really, really well, some may have, included some smaller compact spaces, and that's what may be driving the walkable, bikeable, downtown hustle and bustling area.
In more demographically blessed areas where they don't have affordable units, it's not the demographics that are coming here. Again, high density has always meant subsidized in Homestead, always, and we can't mandate that it's not. So, and then we go forward, and if we ever do the Flagler project and do that on second reading, that's going to be what, 63, 68 at 7 stories?
63.
63 at 7 stories. And if the Triangle property is developed along the lines that were proposed, that's going to be somewhere between 45 and 60.
The 63 units per acre doesn't necessarily mean that's the number of units that are going to go in there.
True, but that's in effect what has been approved. So again, if I were the developer coming in to avail myself of the Live Local Act, I would say your code allows on this site up to 63, therefore I'm entitled to do 63.
So I'm getting mixed, like not definite answers. Maybe we ought to get an opinion, a legal opinion.
Well, look, we got the best legal minds in Miami-Dade County sitting right here with us.
What is the concern? So what is the opinion that you're looking for?
If somebody wants to come and do Live Local near the Homestead Flats, will they be granted 63 units an acre, or will that be considered, a special exception?
Not yet. You haven't done that yet.
Excuse me?
If we did, if it had final approval.
If and when you change your zoning code and your future land use map amendment to allow for the development of that project, then that will be the new
That's the benchmark.
minimum,
That's the new benchmark.
new benchmark for density in the city.
Mr. Mayor, quick question.
Okay.
Yes. Councilman Fletcher.
So, my understanding, talking with somebody, is that would be considered a special spot zoning. If we did it for just the Triangle property and we didn't adapt it to our city code, it would just be spot zoning, and therefore that wouldn't.
I don't know how we would do it without amending the comp plan or the zoning code to provide for it. That's the only way you can do it.
Just something we need to talk.
Currently, the rules don't exist to develop that property.
So, Mr. Manager, when we're having our discussions with Eric Valier, he was under the assumption that if we had a special spot zoning, let's say the old City Hall property, and we did something there, and we didn't apply it to our city code, it was just a one-time approval, that would not count. And that was a discussion we had for about an hour. So let's make sure we follow back up with him as well.
And Councilman, we'll sit down and talk to Eric and cross-reference information to make sure we're all on the same page. Yes, sir.
Again, I know he's not an attorney, but he said he was dealing with that on a couple different
I'm not sure
locations.
that just the language that we're using to describe it in terms of it not being codified. I mean, whatever we do is going to be codified. So I'm not sure what mechanism. I think there might be a disconnect in the language, but I'm happy to have the conversation with him. Context is going to matter a little bit here. So okay.
Even so, remember, the discussion underlying this, bringing this forward, is that the Live Local Act goes into effect July 1. So whatever we do, the meat and potatoes need to be adopted prior to that. And again, nothing's perfect. We're going to come back, we can tinker, but we've got to have it in place.
Yeah, I have a short window to do this, to get it to the manager's office. I mean, for Friday the agenda goes out for next week's LPA council meeting. So I'll work with staff, we'll get this, and then you'll have a second shot to look at it. If you don't like something, we can change it. But my recommendation is to adopt something, and then, it's a work in progress. I fully expect that the legislature is probably going to have some curative legislative fixes next year that's going to require us to probably have to examine things again. So I think it's just going to be in movement for a little while. And we'll
So
just have to deal with it.
procedurally, how do we get from tonight to the next meeting based on what's in front of us?
So I'm going to make edits to the document based on what you all, the laundry list that we just talked about, to be included into this language for your consideration next week on second reading.
Okay, so
So it's already
we
advertised.
adopt what's in front of us on first reading with a direction to you to bring back our discussion items at the next meeting on second reading.
Correct.
All right.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Roth.
For clarity, can we talk more about the square footage? Because I know that's a pet peeve of you, and I just want to add that the newer developments over on the east side, 3-bedroom units are under 1,100 square feet. 2-bedroom units are right around 800 square feet. So I don't know where we take.
What products are those, though? Townhouses?
Those are condos.
Condos.
So if we're talking about multifamily coming in, most likely it's going to be apartments similar to condos.
That's what the act contemplates is a
Right.
apartment
That's
type.
what I would assume. So my question is, you know, I would like to see some more square footage in some of the units, but the vice mayor brings up a good comment too, that in downtown areas, they tend to scale them down and put more people in them for the foot traffic and for, the density portions of it. And some people seem to really enjoy living in those areas. New York City is a prime example of something like that, but we're not New York City. And it'd be interesting to see what some of the areas that have come up out of the ground over the last 20 years that are going to be similar to things like this with mixed use, what size those units are, and how compatible can we get to that without it becoming shoebox size, right? I mean, I still want it to be comfortable. I still want it to be functional, but I also want to make it a deterrent that, don't come in here and take over all of our commercial and industrial property for high-rise apartments. So I just want to get the square footage thing hammered out, because next week they're going to come back, and if we're not defined on what we actually wanted there, we're going to have to amend that, but it'll still go through as a second reading anyways.
And I agree with you, and the distinction I would make is that the projects you call out were not built as somewhere between 40 and 100% affordable.
True, yeah, okay.
For me, that's a big distinction.
Yeah.
And again, we've talked around it, but we're trying to enact some limiting factors to avoid the total cannibalization
of
very valuable and job-producing and tax-based industrial and commercial in favor of affordable that under this statute also has the right to come in and obtain a full real property tax exemption. So we've got a room full of police officers tonight. You're going to have all these units that are paying no taxes to equip and hire the new folks we need, as well as keep the existing folks equipped and protected. So that's what we face, is that added attraction is the potential of no tax revenue from these units.
So maybe a good idea would be adopt tonight the 850, and we'll look at some other downtowns to see what they've got and see what unit sizes, to see if on second reading we could move forward with anything different.
Well, and again, I just want to keep in context, this is as to live local projects, not market rate projects that we want to see in and around downtown.
Are any of these projects exempt from any of the impact fees?
By law, affordable housing development is exempt from impact fees. But with respect to concurrency, mitigation for schools, mitigation for roads, all those sort of things. All that still applies.
All right, so do we have a motion to move this forward to come back subject to the discussion items we've had tonight? Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilman Fletcher,
Sorry.
Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you. One quick question. So regarding the size, the one thing that I am trying to wrap my head around, obviously, if an additional 100 square feet is going to deter someone from looking at us first, then we should definitely do that. But I'm curious what that means financially for an affordable apartment. You know, what could that 100 square feet mean for a difference? Are we giving up on the quality of what the product is going to be? Is it going to be less affordable? Like, that's the one piece I can't wrap my head around. What could that 100 extra square feet mean? Does that make sense? Because I've been trying to figure out how to ask this question.
No, I think it's a good question. From the affordability perspective, that the thresholds are prescribed as a percentage of AMI. So I think when you talk about, you know, what the impacts could be to the project and, you know, do they find money because they're building the extra square footage elsewhere, you know, among the things that we're doing by incorporating the R3 is that amenity, sort of those amenity requirements in addition to, because I think the goal here is to make sure that any affordable product mirrors what you'd see in a market rate product, and you want sort of those a consistency there with those requirements so you don't create a dual set of standards in that way. I can't say exactly, but the affordability piece, the requirement that 40% be affordable, that's determined by a percentage of AMI. That the number is going to be what it's going to be.
Okay. So then I would be curious to know what, not necessarily a typical downtown apartment would be, but what a typical one-bedroom or studio size would be for some of these new affordable housing developments. So we could maybe up that by about 100 square feet, not really harm the project or the quality of the product itself, but maybe deter someone from looking. Does that?
Well, I just want to be clear, when we keep saying affordable, we're just talking about a dwelling unit. We're not making a distinction that it's affordable or not affordable for purposes of the land development regulations. We're treating them the same.
Correct. It's just, okay.
It's hard.
It's tough.
It's hard to wrap your head around everything that we're trying to consider and how we're trying to protect our city, right?
Because obviously we've been having these conversations to have some quality, affordable areas to choose from. So not that this comes back and bites us and now we are just doing the opposite and we're deterring people from developing, but we're also not coming up with any quality, affordable projects as well.
And just one more note, I'm sorry, Mayor. The impact fees and exclusions, and you talked about concurrency. What about Miami-Dade County School Board? And when you put units in place, do they still have to go through the same criteria for number of seats that are available in the schools?
We would need to confer with the school district on that, but whatever Miami-Dade County School District requires, right, in their review for multifamily, they may or may not give some deference or discount to affordable. And I mean, affordable, just like any other, a unit is a unit, a one-bedroom or two-bedroom is going to yield a certain percentage or a certain student ratio or student station that needs to be accounted for. So off the top of my head, I don't know what or how Miami-Dade County handles an affordable unit in the context of the required school mitigation that we have to do with Miami-Dade County.
Because
we can find out and come back to you.
Right, but
with that.
that's another important part of this, that along with the potential of not receiving any tax revenues for these properties, it puts the county in a position where they have to pay for these students to go to school with no impact fees to the school and no reoccurring income to help support the schools. So that's a totally different situation. So maybe, as you said, next year when they reevaluate what they've done, the legislature will begin to pull back some of the stuff that they put in here that is going to handcuff us financially in the future. Not so much the city, but the county, and then the other taxpayers that are in the city that and in the county that will end up paying more taxes to cover those expenses. So it's a trickle down effect that those aren't paying, but these others will be forced to because of the shortcomings in the budget. So that's just another part of this puzzle that just doesn't fit in place.
So let me open this up to public comment. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this proposed adoption of the first reading of this ordinance? Yes, sir. Come on down, Mr. Bass. And my aim's still pretty good from this distance.
Yeah, no, I just had a couple quick questions. So then I picked up on this, so this is only for the commercial, like residential uses in commercial and industrial zone
Correct.
properties. It does, it's
This
not
apply-
citywide.
Right.
And then, and just during the conversation, so you're gonna limit the mixed use on the bottom story, right? Is that gonna be the only commercial component? If we were to do a project and we wanted like retail downstairs, would we be allowed to do like a professional mixed use on the second floor and then go up with residential?
I think
like
the
that?
intent is to require at a minimum commercial activities on the ground floor and go up from there.
Require it, so if you do, well, if you're gonna
A
do
mixed use
the
by
mixed use has-
definition is ground floor
Right.
commercial.
And then to clarify, and then what the vice mayor was asking is that, so the projects don't have to be, they don't have to be mixed use, but they can be.
That's correct. Under this
I follow.
ordinance, and we're talking about projects under this ordinance, do not have to be mixed use.
But if they do, they're limited to the bottom floor.
No?
No. Okay, I understand. I had one more question and then a related question to that would be, so if you had retail, commercial, would it be limited, like, would it be B1 downstairs? Is it gonna be, like, we're gonna have special B1, B2, just B1 downstairs, and like B1A on the second? Like, how would that work from a commercial standpoint?
Mr. Pearl, Mr. White?
I'm sorry, I was,
Like allowable uses for the commercial?
The allowable use, the allowable commercial use in a mixed use.
would it be whatever the permitted uses are in the mixed use district? And then in commercial, it would be whatever the permitted uses are in that underlying commercial district.
We're not limiting the commercial component that's currently allowed in a mixed use. So whatever's there now.
Yeah, all right, I got it, I understand.
Right. Thank you.
That's a whole nother subject now. You're talking about industrial property. You could put automotive underneath residential, and they could repair automobiles there. You know, so you'd have to rethink about all that stuff too. Right? Is that right?
Well, we could say
Where's that can of worms?
that mixed use, irrespective of being in the industrial or commercial, varies, could say that the mixed use shall contain, I guess if it's in B1A, it would have to be B1A. But if it's in B1, B2, B3, or industrial, the mixed use commercial component, the commercial component can only be a B1 use. In other words, the intensity of the commercial can't exceed what's allowed in B1. So you wouldn't have a heavy commercial or an industrial use on the ground floor with residential on the top floor.
So does that need to be included implicitly in the
I mean,
motion?
I'll have to massage that, but
Okay.
basically, but that's just,
All right. Are we ready to vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers. Councilman Fletcher.
Yes.
Councilman Roth. Councilwoman Bailey.
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila. Vice Mayor Guzman. Mayor Losner.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Anything further, Mr. Manager, on this agenda, Mr. Attorneys?
No, Mayor.
All right, so we're going to adjourn this meeting and take a 5-minute break because we still have a long agenda in front of us.
that's what you said.
I know. I didn't do that.
I don't think it'll be that hard. What,
Wait.
Hello, little pumpkins. What you doing? Um,
Let's do it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'll call the City of Homestead Committee of the whole meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, and it is 7:02 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough Staggers. Councilman Roth. Here. Councilwoman Avila. Councilman Fletcher.
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey. Vice Mayor Guzman. Mayor Losner.
Present. Mr. Manager, are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
No, Mayor, there are none.
All right, if there are no objections, Mr. Bauman has paid his dues and endured enough pain tonight. Let's jump to tab 11 on the rodeo lease. If there are no objections. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you, Mayor. The Rodeo Association of Homestead, Inc. has requested to expand their fence line to the north of the existing rodeo grounds in Harrisfield Park. The expansion will allow for a larger catch pen area to accommodate more horses for the rodeo. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing city manager to execute the lease modification with the Rodeo Association of Homestead, Inc. Something to keep in mind, Mayor, there won't be any cost to the city for actually moving the fence. The rodeo will be taking care of that. And the rodeo's here, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the rodeo? We're glad to be able to do this. I know we've walked the site and had meetings about this. Appreciate you enduring the meeting. Come on up. You spent an hour and a half or 2 hours in the chairs. You might as well have your minute at the podium. So for the record, give us your name.
Jim Bauman, President of Homestead Rodeo Association. Good to see you all again. Most of you were there last year and you see our space issues and stuff. So this is a simple thing. We have more contestants, more animals participating too. We had close to 80 plus horses back there at one time. So it's just, we need more space for them to be able to warm up. It's a safety issue. So that would be a big help to have that little extra space there for us. So
Glad to be able to do it. I know we've got a lot of other issues we're going to be dealing with over the next year or two, but hey,
Yeah.
one piece at a time.
Yep.
Yes, Councilman Fletcher? All right, is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Roth. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
All right,
See
thank you
out
very
there.
much. Thank you.
We thought Mr. Hardwick was going to do a catch and release demonstration for us or something. All right. Back to the agenda. Okay, so we have before us the minutes of May 9th, moved by Councilman Roth, seconded by Councilman Fletcher. All in favor? Any opposed? Next is tab 2, the card number 3925 to place the impact study fee on the agenda. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. At the April 4th, 2023 special call, Mayor and Council directed staff to explore whether the current impact fees being charged by the city for parks and recreation, public works, and public safety are up to date, and whether additional fees can be charged to account for the impacts of new development on water and wastewater, solid waste, and general government. On April 18th, 2023, Titchler Bice, Inc. submitted a proposal for consulting services to update the city's impact fees. Titchler Bice is one of the national leaders in impact fee consulting and recently completed studies for the villages of Pinecrest, City of Port St. Lucie, Hillsborough County, and the Flagler County School District. Staff recommends Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Titchler Bice, Inc. for impact fee consulting services in an amount not to exceed $73,920. And I believe we have a representative on the phone if anyone has any questions.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions for the representative of the proposed vendor?
Just one, sir.
Yes, Councilman Roth.
What's the expected date of delivery of the
That was my
report?
question.
According to the schedule provided in the proposal, we're looking at finishing in November 2023, November of this year.
Very good, thank you. That's a lot faster than I had anticipated. And just, again, a refresher course for the public, that these studies are the foundation, the bedrock of what we have to have in place in order to legitimately adopt any increase in any impact fee. This is just not something that we can, out of hand, say, let's increase it by a quarter a square foot for a given fee. This will establish the basis in fact for any activity going forward.
You're absolutely correct, Mayor. And it's time that we do it. I want to say it's close to 20 years since the last time we've actually updated the impact fees.
I think you're right. I don't think it's been done since probably 2002, 2003. And it was antiquated when we did it then. All right, is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter? We have a motion to place this on the council agenda. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by the Vice Mayor. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, next item, tab 3. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Homestead has participated in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development entitlement allocation formula as a recipient of federal funds since 2008. The city is currently embarking on its next 5-year cycle to receive HUD grant allocations and will provide funds to promote affordable housing initiatives and socioeconomic programs to address identified community development needs. In fiscal year 2023-24, the city will receive $845,265 in community development block grant funds. To release CDBG funding, the city must assess local housing and community development needs, resources, and social economic impediments towards building viable neighborhoods every 5 years. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing city manager to submit the Community Development Block Grant 5-year consolidated plan for fiscal year 2023-24 through fiscal year 2027-28 and the annual action plan for fiscal year 2023-24 to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Seems to be recurring. Yes, Councilwoman Fairclough-Staggers.
Yes, thank you. To staff, I'd just like to say, in looking at the annual action plan projects, I'm grateful that you considered the requests from this dais. We had a conversation about swimming and ensuring that children in our community are provided the opportunity and the resources to be able to learn how to swim. So I am happy to see that you prioritize this in the action plan projects. And in looking at all of the projects in their totality, I'm grateful that you prioritize children as well as art, entertainment, and culture with the Seminole Theater waterproofing. So I definitely support these projects moving forward. You know, I'm always on the CDBG, so I'm very happy tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further? All right, do we have any public comment? Close the public hearing and ask for a motion to place this on the council agenda. Moved by Councilwoman Fairclough-Staggers, seconded by Councilman Fletcher. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item is tab 4, Mr. Manager. Motion to place car number 3910 on the council agenda. Administration of Project Delivery Services for the 2023-2027 CDBG and other related projects.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out one thing. There was a Scrivener's error on this one. It says 5 years, but it's really a 4-year agreement. The city put out an RFP for grant administration and project delivery services related to Community Development Block Grant Award on February 24th, 2023, and one single response was received. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council authorize the city manager to negotiate, award, and execute an agreement for RFP 2023-21 Administration and Project Delivery Services for 2023-27 through 2027 Community Development Block Grant and other related programs to the top rank firm Calvin Giordano Associates, Inc. This is a 4-year agreement not to exceed a total of $507,156. And we have representatives from the company here if there are any questions.
Thank you, Council. Any questions? We have a long history with this organization, long positive history. Councilwoman.
Yes. Question and a suggestion. I know generally we allocate amount. You can't hear me?
No, barely. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I know we generally allocate an amount of money for the operator or for this grant. If there are any surplus funds, and there's always surplus funds, we don't expend all of it, perhaps we should consider the terrace area in the Seminole Theater, if we can build that area out under public facilities. We're doing a great job with the roof, but I feel as if that area really needs to be developed, and this pot of money can potentially achieve that. So if there are any surplus funds, I recommend the consideration to really build out that area.
Yeah, and if there's a consensus from council, definitely we'll take that into account.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've talked to the manager about that, but I think it needs to be with with a professional designer, architect, interior decorator, what have you, so that, everything is cohesive and architecturally appropriate. But what an incredible venue overlooking the park at the right time of year for private or public events. Absolutely. And I think that was a fairly cheap fix as things go.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mayor.
that's definitely a diamond in the rough, and we want to take advantage of it.
Thanks for bringing that up, Councilwoman Fairclough. I think it's a great idea. If there's any funds left, we could also, utilize those funds, because Councilman Fletcher brought it up the other day about the balcony area that we have on the second floor. It also needs a little upgrading.
Okay, we'll definitely take a look at it.
Any further comments? All right. Public comment? We'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to place this on the agenda? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Fairclough Staggers. All in favor? All right, motion carries. Next is tab 6. Motion to place car number 3928 on the council agenda. E-procurement and contract management. Man, was this one music to my ears. Did I miss 5?
Yeah, I think we're on 5.
Okay. I got so excited about upgrading procurement into the 20th century. Okay. Tab 5, motion to place car number 3917 on the council agenda, RFP 2023-30, the CDBG program for STEM services for fiscal year 22-23.
Thank you, Mayor. At the July 27, 2022 council meeting, council approved card number 3561, Community Development Block Grant 2022-23 Annual Action Plan that provided science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs to low-income students. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council authorize the city manager to award RFP number 2023-30 to Dibia Dreams, Inc. for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs, and to negotiate and execute an agreement in the amount not to exceed $100,000. And we do have a representative of Dibia Dreams here as well to answer any questions.
Thank you, council. I'll open the floor to any questions or comments of staff or Dibia Dreams. Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was really hoping that this was going to go through right before Art Walk, because I was hoping to make this one of the big STEM Saturdays. As I have said before, I was a big fan before the pandemic, but definitely during the pandemic, it was just such an amazing thing. And I know that they worked very hard to make sure that everybody was getting those kits delivered to their homes and still feeling part of a group and doing something educational and fun together. So I'm very happy to see this, and I would just like to throw out there that any opportunity we have to, we still funded it out of the regular budget, even though it wasn't included in, because it's important to me, and I thought that that would be a good way to get the community involved again, because it did drop off a little bit in this last year. So any opportunity that we have to promote this amazing program for our students, I'm encouraging everybody to please do so. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and I'm happy to see this moving forward again. The Dibia Dream Foundation, they have a proven track record in this community relative to supporting our kids and getting them excited about these STEM fields, particularly our young girls who are not necessarily in these STEM fields. So I'm excited about that. What I also enjoyed seeing was at Art Walk, I saw a presence by Dibia Dream Foundation there. And I really like the fact that they are really immersing themselves in our community and being a community partner. Outside of these awards, they're doing more, and they're out volunteering and being a part of our projects. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm happy to support this tonight.
Thank you, Councilwoman. All right, so we'll open the floor to public comments. Not appearing, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to place this on the council agenda. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Fairclough Staggers. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And tab 6. Motion to place car number 3928 on the council agenda, e-procurement and contract management solutions software.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, the City of Homestead's procurement process is completely dependent on a manual, labor-intensive, and time-consuming non-electronic paper-based process. With this software purchase, staff can do away with word processing, email, binders, and spreadsheets. Now they will have the ability to quickly develop solicitations using intuitive, guided workflows that do not require a significant degree of technical know-how. Staff is estimated to spend approximately 75% less time writing solicitations, providing an opportunity to update them and modernize policies and procedures. After researching and attending demonstrations with various software companies, city staff has identified OpenGov as the preferred vendor to provide a modern procurement suite solution. OpenGov has an excellent reputation and is the only vendor who provides an entirely web-based product designed exclusively for government. This software will also allow procurement to better manage the increased number of projects, improve our supplier engagement, provide increased transparency, and enhance our customer service experience. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution for the purchase of e-procurement and contract management solution software with OpenGov, Inc., and authorize the city manager to execute a 3-year agreement with optional renewal terms and possible price adjustments. The total software cost for the initial 3-year term is $109,598, and a one-time fee of $24,190 for professional services associated with the implementation of the project.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to say this is long in coming. I know procurement has been looking at this for years, and we're very excited to get this software up and running for the city.
It seems like just the time and personnel and paper savings and a cohesive presentation that we can move more quickly, hopefully through procurement. We can get Gridix up and running, and that software to e-file our campaign reports will be in good shape. Any public comment? Anything further from council? Yes, Councilwoman.
I just have a comment. I had an opportunity to meet with Malia and all of the rectors, and when I had a conversation with them, I would ask them about their vision and what they can do to take their departments to the next level. And when I spoke to Malia, she really, her eyes like widened when she talked about they were in the process of procuring this company to be able to elevate the procurement experience. So I'm happy that this is coming forward. And Malia, congratulations to you and your team. Where is she? I saw her earlier. There she is. Congratulations to you and your team. And I know this is going to increase your efficiency. You're doing an amazing job there. I had a great conversation with you. Very confident in the work that you're doing. It's only going up from here. So congratulations.
All right. Any public comment? All right. So do we have a motion to forward this item to the council agenda? Moved by Councilman Fletcher, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, moving right along, tab 7, motion to place car number 3918 on the council agenda. Item number 2023-20, tree trimming and line clearing services. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Tree trimming and line clearing services are required throughout the year for the electric utility to ensure vegetation does not interfere with the electrical circuits. Vegetation interference in the electrical lines can disrupt power if not properly cleared and maintained. These services are also required on an emergency basis for any type of storm and natural disaster, and this bid award also covers that hurricane and severe weather-related work if needed. Staff recommends and Mayor and Council approve award of ITB 2023-20 tree trimming and line clearing services to Asplund Tree Experts LLC, the lowest, most responsive bidder. The award is in accordance with the attached bid tabulation. The services will be rendered on an as-needed basis. This recommendation for award will also provide the city manager the authorization to approve price adjustments and renewals within the departmental budget. This is a 3-year agreement beginning on October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2026, with the option to extend for 2 additional 1-year terms. The agreement requires fixed pricing for the first year and allows for price increases and decreases in the years following intervals.
Thank you. Questions, comments from council? My first comment is I think this goes a long way to our electrical system reliability on a daily basis. I mean, so many times we get notices of outages that are not equipment failures, but unmaintained trees that may or may not belong to us or may or may not belong to the homeowners interfering with our lines. And this is just part of having our own electric utility, plus that emergency services situation that we full well understand firsthand how important that is. So, you know, I always think how we've gotten our rates under control and our sourcing of cleaner energy. This is an important step to help hone that reliability issue. So I appreciate this. Council? All right. Any comment from the public? None appearing. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Avila. Second by Councilman Fletcher. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item, tab 8, motion to place car number 3923 on the council agenda. Settlement of claim with Esurance and Allstate Company.
Thank you, Mayor. A vehicle insured by Esurance struck and damaged city vehicle number 21017, a 2021 Dodge Charger. Esurance has offered to pay the city their insurance policy limit for a total amount of $25,000 and let the city retain the salvage. As a condition of this settlement, the city manager will be required to execute a release in favor of Esurance and their insured Maria Mejias, Juan Mejias, and Carlos Alexander. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council authorize the city manager to accept a settlement offer from Esurance of Allstate Company in an amount of $25,000 for the damage to a 2021 Dodge Charger, vehicle number 21017, in settlement of a claim resulting in an automobile accident with their insured.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? Okay, any public comment? We'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by the Vice Mayor. Oh. Do we have public comment? Well, you need to come to the microphone. It was on a settlement of an accident case, insurance claim.
My name is Melinda Washington. I'm speaking for Sports. E-Insurance or Melinda Health Insurance is a health insurance that start off with $45 year to date. For car insurance, depending on the amount of car insurance that you receive at the time, and I think there was doing a promotion at the time, it was also a year to date when it became a cost. And to enter into the insurance, you have to have your citations and fines paid before you can enter into the insurance. However, the insurance are set up, and approximately it varies from anywhere from $315 to approximately $300, because I think that car just entered the insurance at the beginning of the year, maybe 2 months ago. You may have received a title of $3,000, anywhere from $1,200 to $3,000.
Oh.
If you had a joint insurance with Allstate, your insurance payout would not be that much. Again, it was a year to date, and car insurance vary from $15 year to date to the time you're requesting the maturity early. So $25,000 is not permissible at this time for that car. If you would like to talk to Allstate and see if you can get a maturity time before Melinda well, Agent Melinda, health insurance was able to fulfill that promise, then you can also talk to Allstate. Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything further, Mr. Manager, on this item?
No, Mayor.
All right, did we have a motion and a second already? All right, moved by Councilwoman Avila, I think, and seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item is tab 9, motion to place car number 3912 on the council agenda, the Hurricane Loss Mitigation Program Grant Award for the Homestead J.D. Red Park Wind Mitigation Project. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Homestead applied for and was awarded Hurricane Loss Mitigation Program grant in the amount of $194,000 by the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Grant funds will be used to provide wind mitigation for the J.D. Red Public Government Building to help protect the building from damages of future windstorm, hurricanes, and severe thunderstorms. This will provide an increased level of protection during windstorm events while reducing the chance of loss. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the City Manager to enter an agreement with the Florida Division of Emergency Management and establish a budget in the amount of $194,000 for the J.D. Red Park Wind Mitigation Project. This grant requires no matching funds.
Thank you. So just for academic curiosity, what exactly are we going to do there?
We're going to fix the roof on
Fix
that
the
building.
roof on the concession stand. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, if there's any leftover funds, is this going to roll over to other nearby parks?
The grant award for this project is only for that building, that project. And we based our application on a quote that we received for that roof replacement just this year. I'm pretty confident we're going to use all of it at that park.
Okay, and that's for the rec room roof that overflows
Yes.
to the concession stand?
Yes, that's correct. That one larger building, and that includes also work to the fascia and all of that goes along with the replacement.
But this is not including the pavilion?
No.
Okay. And that bid, that estimate or that quote you got for 200,000, that was, you got at least 3 quotes and that was the cheapest?
Yeah, we used Garland, who does their own competitive process to arrive at a price, is who we reached out to for that.
Thank you.
Great. Any public comment? There's nothing further from council. Do we have a motion to place this on the agenda, council agenda? Moved by the vice mayor, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the next item is tab 10. Motion to place car number 3913 on the council agenda. Request for waiver of usage fees. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The
Let's
Miami-Dade
cut to the
State...
chase. We did this last year and it's $200. All in favor? Aye.
We could do the rest of them like that if you like.
All but the last one, okay. We've done tab 11. Moving on to tab 12, we've got to have some discussion on, well, not discussion, but a nice presentation on tab 12. Motion to place car number 3828 on the council agenda, the COPS hiring grant. What a great piece of news.
Thank you, Mayor. On October 13th, 2022, the Department of Justice COPS Office awarded the City of Homestead a grant in the amount of $1,200,000 in order to partially fund the salary of new law enforcement officers. The COPS Office grant caps each new position salary contribution at $125,000 over the 3 years or $41,667 annually for the first 3 years of a police officer's wages and benefits. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the City Manager to enter into an agreement and establish a budget for a grant award of $1,250,000 from the Florida Department of Justice COPS Office for the hiring of law enforcement officers. This grant requires 74% in matching funds.
No others, do we hear from Sandy today, or?
Sandy's here if you all want to ask her questions.
Council? Questions? Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. Any public comment? Thank you, Sandy, and everyone who helped put this together. This is a really a big financial shot in the arm to further our law enforcement folks. All right. No public comment. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Next item, tab 13, motion to place car number 3905 on the council agenda, the school crossing guard services.
Thank you, Mayor. The Homestead Police Department is required to provide a total of 10 part-time crossing guards and 1 crossing guard supervisor for the 4 local elementary schools listed below: Laura C. Saunders Elementary, Redondo Elementary, West Homestead Elementary, Gateway Environmental Center, K-8. Staff recommends and Mayor and Council authorize the city manager to award bid number 2023-19 School Crossing Guard Services to Waterfield, Florida Staffing, LLC, DBA Action Labor / Staffing Connection in an amount not to exceed $193,200. This contract will go into effect in fiscal year 2024. This is a 3-year agreement with 2 one-year extensions. This recommendation will also allow the manager to approve price adjustments if needed and within the departmental budget.
Thank you, sir. Council? Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have any idea how much it would cost to do a 4-way stop sign at not a main road? Is there some type of ballpark?
So as far as traffic signals and signs, that all falls under the
County.
jurisdiction of Miami-Dade County. So if there's a specific intersection, we can request a warrant study, and then it would actually be the county that undertakes the cost of installation and maintenance.
I'm asking because there are a couple schools that don't have 4-way stops right by where children walk often, and there's always a decent amount of traffic. And always in the beginning of the school, the crossing guards are usually out there saying you got to treat this as a 4-way stop, but that doesn't typically continue through the year, at least not what I've seen. So maybe it's worth the trouble to go through that now, since these schools are probably not going anywhere, to have a permanent 4-way stop to help with that.
If you give us a list of the intersections you're targeting, we'll definitely reach out to the county.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, any public comment? Hearing none, do we have a motion to place this on the council agenda? Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to tab 14. Motion to place car number 3930 on the council agenda, Pump Station 11 upgrades and engineering services. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Miami-Dade County Department of Environmental Resources Management has placed Pump Station number 11 under conditional moratorium status due to its yearly nominal average pump operating time having exceeded the maximum allowable limit of 10 hours. This award is for the development of the bid documents and engineering services during construction for the proposed Pump Station 11 upgrades and force main upgrades. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing city manager to enter into an agreement with Hazen and Sawyer for professional engineering services pursuant to RFQ 2013-07, professional architectural and engineering services for a lump sum of $323,210 for the preparation of bid documents for the pump station and force upgrades and engineering services during construction. This authorization will also allow the city manager to authorize increases in fees as well as additional engineering services necessary to complete the project up to 30%.
Thank you. Council? Questions, comments? How quickly? Yeah. All right, it's been moved.
2 years.
Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Fletcher. Any public comment? 2 years, okay. All right, to have it up and running at the level it needs to be. Okay. Thank you. All right, no public comment. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item is tab 15, motion to place car number 3926 on the council agenda. Settlement of all claims made by Vaughn Michael Talton. If we can, council has heard this. This is a settlement of an insurance claim.
Sorry, Mayor?
We'll dispense with your,
Please.
any objection to that? All right, do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilman Fletcher, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. Is there any public comment? None appearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item, tab 16. Motion to place car number 3927 on the council agenda. Settlement of all claims made by Stephen D. Green. Will waive the staff presentation. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. Is there any public comment? All in favor? Any opposed? And finally, not finally, but tab 17, motion to place car number 3929 on the council agenda. Settlement of all claims made by Jason Figueroa and Jasmine Olvera. We'll waive, if council's okay, we'll waive the reading of the staff report. We have a motion to approve by Councilman Fletcher, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. Is there any public comment? None appearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item. Oh, okay. Tab 18.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
From 2008 until this year, there have been no increases in solid waste collection fees. In that same time period, the city's population has increased by 42%, and the consumer price index for water and sewer and trash collection has increased by 90%. For both fiscal years 2022 and 2023, solid waste revenues were insufficient to cover the cost of operations and capital improvements. In order to create a balanced budget moving forward, city staff proposed an increase to rates and fees for all customers. At the March 29, 2023 City Council meeting, Mayor and Council approved an increase of 34% for solid waste rates for commercial customers that became effective on May 1st, 2023. Staff now proposes an approximately 32% increase for residential customers to take effect when fiscal year 2024 commences on October 1st, 2023. Residential customers will see an increase from $33.90 per month to $44.50 per month for trash collection with no increase to recycling fees, meaning customers will pay $534 for solid waste services per year. The frequency of service will remain the same, with trash pickup 2 times per week, recycling pickup 26 times per year, and bulk waste pickup 26 times per year. For comparison, Miami-Dade County solid waste customers currently pay $509 annually and only receive 2 bulk waste pickups per year. So for only 5% more, Homestead customers receive 18% more overall service. Mayor and Council, it was brought to my attention right before this meeting that the Miami-Dade is proposing to increase their rates to $545 annually for their residential customers. In addition to the solid waste fees increases, staff has also proposed an increase in the hurricane fee for all customers from $1.02 per month to $1.25 per month in anticipation of potential natural disasters in order to keep pace with cost increases across all sectors. Contained within the implementing resolution attached is the proposed new residential increase, hurricane fee increase, previously approved commercial rate increase, and various other housekeeping changes to align current services with available rate codes. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution, increasing the solid waste collection rates for residential customers effective October 1st, 2023, and memorializing various other housekeeping charges to the current rate table.
Thank you. And let me just jump out there and say it's just amazing. It's been since 2008 since this has been addressed, and this is going to take one of those informational campaigns before the trim notices hit mailboxes.
Absolutely.
We
We're
need to
already working
prepare
on it.
folks and explain that it's been 15 years since there's been any increase, and do that county comparison. It's a big bite, but we cannot continue to subsidize and lose money on this.
And that's an excellent point, Mayor. I mean, just since October of last year, literally, we've had to help solid waste with over $4 million. 1 million of that, if I'm not mistaken, from ARPA funds, just to keep them going. This is well overdue.
Absolutely. So, Councilman, did you want to weigh in? You know, and maybe if you wouldn't mind circulating the proposed flyer that goes out, you know.
Absolutely. We'll send you all a draft of it.
It's a very delicate subject. Any year, certainly now that it's on the tax bill and folks are going to say, my taxes went up, and, you know, we're not going to have the nuanced argument that it's not a tax increase, but I think that if people expect it and have it explained to them, and certainly this huge time lag, that would be very, very helpful and get us through that. So I'd appreciate that. Any public comment? All right, do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Anything further, Mr. Manager?
Mayor, yes, just one thing. Just looking agenda-wise next month in July, I'm seeing it's kind of light for the committee of the whole, and I know we're going to have a lot of people out of the office. Would council have an issue not having a cow next month and just having a straight council meeting?
No objection here.
Okay, just checking. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, anything further from council? Yes, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to Harris Field's concession stand, I'd like for us to look into that. I don't recall if there was an improvement or an upgrade made, but, you know, it's triggering my memory going through these agenda items, so.
Yes, the Harris Field restroom and concession building is also slated for upgrades. We're hoping this fiscal year. We recently got the permits approved for the restroom renovation on Dry Run, and we're now just waiting for the solicitation to go out. That was one of the CDBG funded projects, so procurement takes a little longer following the federal guidelines.
Thank you for that. And then I also wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you on behalf of the Kiwanis Club of Homestead South Dade and the Military Affairs Council for each and every one of you's participation, support, and ongoing efforts in improving our community through that organization. So thank you to Mayor Fletcher, Councilman Bailey, Councilman Roth, Vice Mayor, Councilwoman Fairclough for each and every one of your contributions. Thank you.
Great event.
Real
Appreciate
quick,
that.
Mayor,
Yes.
also, can somebody tell us what's happening on the 15th?
The demolition
Yes.
party.
On June 15th, we're very excited to have the demolition kickoff for the Homestead Sports Complex. That will be at 10 a.m. at the Sports Complex. Please, I know that hopefully most of you will be in attendance, and of course the public as well. It's a long time coming to see the sports complex really live up to its name and its true potential, kind of putting to bed the previous facility as we start work on this collaborative effort between all of you and us.
Yeah, appreciate that. That was a comment I was going to have, is that I've received several positive comments from out in the community due to our social media campaign and otherwise advertising this event, that people are so grateful and happy to see. And they understand it's not going to be overnight, but that we've picked the architecture and we're moving forward, a real tangible sign of huge positive change. So appreciate that. Nothing further from council? Mr. Attorney?
If I may, I'm sorry. Just one
You
quick
should be.
announcement for an executive session in the matter of, here it is. Esponda and Esponda v. City of Homestead. It's case number 22-015524 in Miami-Dade County Circuit Court. Thank you.
Let's make it happen. All right. If there's nothing further, council, do we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Thank you all. Good night.